The red warning light flashed across the bridge of the human ship Aegis as it traveled through the dark space between stars. Ambassador Dae-ho Kim sat in his chair, reading the message that had just arrived. His face grew pale as he read each word carefully. "Captain Jinwoo Lee, please come here," Dae-ho called out. His voice was quiet but serious. Captain Jinwoo walked over quickly. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been flying ships for 20 years and had never seen the ambassador look so worried. "What is it, sir?" Jinwoo asked. Dae-ho handed him the message. "The Galactic Council wants to see us. They say it is very important, and we must come, right now." Jinwoo read the message twice. The Galactic Council was made up of 12 different alien races. They were very old and very powerful. They ruled most of the galaxy. Humans had only been part of their group for a short time. "They have never called an emergency meeting like this before," Jinwoo said. "Not in 300 years. "That is what worries me," Dae-ho replied. Just then, Yuna Park walked onto the bridge. She was the ship's tactical officer, which meant she knew about fighting and weapons. She was young but very smart. She carried a datapad in her hands. "Ambassador, I have some bad news," Yuna said. "Our colonies on the edge of human space are in trouble." Dae-ho turned to face her. "What kind of trouble?" "Ships are disappearing," Yuna explained. "Whole settlements are going dark. No one sends distress calls. No one asks for help. They just stop talking to us." Jinwoo frowned. "Pirates?" "No, sir. This is different. The attacks are too well planned. Someone knows exactly where our weak spots are. Someone has been watching us." Dae-ho felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "How many colonies?" 15 so far. All on the outer rim. All in the last 3 months. The three humans stood in silence for a moment. Outside the ship, stars moved slowly past the windows as they traveled toward their destination. "Set course for Nexus Prime Station," Dae-ho said finally. "But be careful. I have a feeling this meeting is not what it seems." Captain Jinwoo nodded and went back to his controls. The Aegis changed direction and headed toward the massive space station where the Galactic Council met. The journey took 2 days. During that time, Yuna noticed something strange. Every time they jumped from one star system to another, there were alien ships waiting for them. The ships did not attack or talk to them. They just watched. "We are not being escorted," Yuna told the captain. "We are being herded like animals." Jinwoo agreed. He had seen this before during the war with the Centauri rebels. When you wanted to capture someone, you made them think they were going where they wanted to go. But really, you were pushing them exactly where you wanted them. When they finally arrived at Nexus Prime Station, Dae-ho could not believe his eyes. The station was huge beyond imagination. It was bigger than Earth's moon. Millions of lights covered its surface like a city made of stars. The station had been built by the Council, races over thousands of years. Each section looked different because each alien race had their own way of building. Some parts looked like giant crystals. Other parts looked like metal trees or flowing water made of stone. "Requesting permission to dock," Jinwoo said into his radio. "Permission granted," came the reply. "Bay 47, the ambassador will be escorted to the council chamber immediately." Dae-ho put on his best diplomatic uniform. It was dark blue with gold buttons. On his chest was a small pin showing the Earth and moon. It seemed very small compared to the alien symbols he had seen. Yuna walked with him to the airlock. "Be careful, sir. Something feels wrong about this." "I know," Dae-ho said. "If something happens to me, make sure Captain Jinwoo gets the ship back to Earth safely." The airlock opened, and Dae-ho stepped onto the alien station. The gravity felt heavier than Earth normal. The air smelled like metal and ozone. Strange sounds echoed from far away. 2 tall alien guards were waiting for him. They did not speak. They just started walking and expected him to follow. Their feet made clicking sounds on the hard floor. The walk to the council chamber took 30 minutes. They passed through corridors that seemed to go on forever. The walls were covered with writing in languages Day-Ho could not read. Sometimes, they walked past windows that showed the darkness of space and the distant stars. Finally, they reached two enormous doors. Each door was 50 feet tall and covered with carvings of alien creatures. The doors opened slowly without making any sound. Inside was the council chamber. Day-Ho had seen pictures of it before, but being there in person was completely different. The room was like being inside a huge crystal cave. The walls bent light in strange ways. Sounds seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. 12 enormous platforms rose up around the edge of the room. On each platform sat one of the council members. They were all different alien species, but they all looked down at the center of the room with the same cold expression. In the center of the room was a single chair. It was small and simple and made for a human. Day-Ho realized immediately that this was meant to make him feel tiny and alone. He walked across the chamber floor. His footsteps echoed loudly in the huge space. When he reached the chair, he sat down and looked up at the 12 aliens staring down at him. The largest alien spoke first. This was Veltar, the prime speaker of the Thessian race. He was 15 feet tall with blue skin and 4 arms. His voice was deep and seemed to come from inside Day-Ho's head. "Human," Veltar said, "you have been brought here to answer for your crimes." Day-Ho kept his face calm, but inside he was confused. "What crimes?" "Your species spreads too fast across the galaxy. You build too many weapons. You advance your technology too quickly. You refuse to accept our guidance." Another alien spoke. This one looked like a giant insect with golden wings. "Humans are dangerous. They do not know their place." A third alien joined in. This one was covered in silver scales and had 6 eyes. "They must be controlled before they threaten galactic peace." Day-Ho listened as each alien spoke. They accused humans of being aggressive, of expanding too quickly, of building military ships, of developing new technologies without permission. But as he listened, Day-Ho realized something important. These were not really crimes. These were just things that successful species did. The real crime in the aliens' minds was that humans refused to bow down and ask permission for everything. Veltar raised one of his 4 hands. The chamber became silent. "Human ambassador," he said, "your species has 30 standard days to surrender all military vessels to council control. You will also surrender control of all human colonies beyond your home system. If you refuse, there will be consequences." Day-Ho looked up at the 12 aliens. They all stared down at him with the same cold, confident expression. They expected him to be afraid. They expected him to beg for mercy. Instead, Day-Ho smiled. Day-Ho's smile made the 12 aliens shift uncomfortably on their high platforms. Veltar's 4 arms moved in what looked like confusion. The blue alien had expected fear, not confidence. "You find this amusing, human?" Veltar asked. His deep voice carried anger now. "Not amusing," Day-Ho replied calmly. "Just interesting. You call this a trial, but you already decided what you want before I got here." The golden-winged insect alien buzzed angrily. "You dare question the council's judgment?" "I question why you need to make such a big show," Day-Ho said. "If you really wanted to negotiate, we could have talked on my ship. Instead, you bring me to this giant room designed to make me feel small." A woman sitting behind Day-Ho stood up slowly. The aliens had not noticed her before because she wore simple gray clothes and looked like a translator. But this was Nari Choi, one of humanity's best intelligence agents. She walked toward Day-Ho carrying a data pad. To the aliens, it looked like she was just bringing him translation notes. But when she handed him the pad, Day-Ho saw the real message hidden in the text. The message made his blood run cold. Human intelligence had discovered the truth about the recent attacks on their colonies. The raids were not random. They were Practice runs. The Council had been testing human defenses, studying how quickly humans could respond to attacks, and learning about human military tactics. Nari sat back down without saying a word. She was very good at her job. Deho looked at the datapad and pretended to read translation notes, but really he was learning that every attack on human colonies had followed the same pattern. Ships would arrive without warning. They would hit the weakest targets first. Then they would disappear before human military forces could arrive. The attacks were too organized to be pirates. Pirates wanted treasure or prisoners. These attackers just wanted information about how humans fought back. Veltar was still talking, listing more accusations against humanity. But Deho was not listening anymore. He was thinking about what the intelligence report meant. While the trial continued, Captain Jin Woo was having his own meeting aboard the Aegis. His communication screen showed the face of Admiral Tae-min Seo, the head of Luna Command, back in the solar system. "Captain," Admiral Seo said quietly, "I need you to listen carefully. What I am about to tell you is classified at the highest level." Jin Woo nodded. He had worked with the Admiral before and trusted him completely. "The attacks on our rim colonies were not what they seemed," the Admiral continued. "Our intelligence teams have been investigating for months. The attackers were not pirates or raiders. They were Council military units using unmarked ships." Jinwoo felt his hands tighten into fists. "They attacked our civilians?" "Worse than that. They were studying us like lab rats. Every attack was designed to test a different aspect of our defenses. Response times, weapon capabilities, tactical doctrines. They have been preparing for war against us." "How long have they been planning this?" "We think since the day humans first made contact with the Council 20 years ago. They never intended for us to be equal members. They were always planning to conquer us eventually." Jin Woo looked out the window at the massive alien station surrounding his small ship. "What do they want from the ambassador?" "Surrender, Admiral," CO said simply. "They want us to give up all our military ships and colonies voluntarily. That way they can take over human space without a big war that might damage what they want to steal." "And if we refuse?" "Then they will attack every human world at the same time. They think we will be too scared to fight back." Jin Woo was quiet for a moment. "Admiral, what they do not know about humans could fill a library." "Exactly, Captain. Which is why we have been preparing for this day." Back in the council chamber, Dae-ho was learning more disturbing truths. Another alien, this one covered in purple fur with too many teeth, was describing how other species had joined the council. "The Vaxani fought us for 50 years, the furry," alien said proudly. "Eventually they learned that resistance was pointless. Now they serve the council faithfully." "The Korthax tried to hide in their deep space colonies," added the silver-scaled alien with 6 eyes. "We found them all. They had a choice: join us or die. They chose wisely." "The Melody thought their shield technology would protect them," said another council member. "They were wrong. Now they build ships for us." Dae-ho realized what he was hearing. This was not a government of equal partners. This was an empire built on conquest. Every species now in the council had been forced to join after being defeated in war. The trial was not about justice. It was about fear. The council wanted him to go back to Earth and tell humanity about their overwhelming power. They wanted humans to surrender without fighting, just like all the other species had done. But there was something the council did not understand about humans. Dr. Sujin Kang was studying alien biology at the research station on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. She had spent years examining every piece of alien technology that humans had encountered. What she discovered would change everything. Every species in the council had one thing in common. When they first met other aliens, they were already thousands of years old as civilizations. They had developed slowly, growing comfortable with their technology over long periods of time. Humans were different. In just 200 years since, First contact, humanity had advanced faster than any species in galactic history. While other races took thousands of years to develop new technologies, humans did it in decades. The council members thought this made humans dangerous. Dr. Su Jin realized it made humans something else entirely. It made them unpredictable. Back on the station, Daeho was watching the alien council members talk among themselves in their various languages. They seemed to think the trial was going well. They expected him to return to Earth with their ultimatum and recommend surrender. Veltar raised his arms again for silence. "Human ambassador, you have heard the evidence against your species. You have heard what happened to others who defied the council. What is your answer?" Daeho stood up slowly from his small chair. The enormous chamber fell completely silent. Even the strange lights in the crystal walls seemed to dim. "I need to speak with my government before I can give you an answer," Daeho said. "Very well," Veltar replied. "You have 30 days, but know this, human. The Council has ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. We have seen many species come and go. None have ever successfully defied us." "There is always a first time," Daeho said quietly. The alien council members looked at each other with what might have been amusement. The small human was trying to be brave, but they had heard such words before from dozens of other species. All of those species now served the council. What they did not know was that Captain Jin Woo had been recording every word of the trial. The recording was already being transmitted back to Earth through hidden quantum communication channels that the Council did not know existed. As Daeho was escorted back to his ship, he walked past the same corridors and windows he had seen before. But now everything looked different. This was not a place of justice or cooperation. This was the heart of an empire built on fear and conquest. When he reached the Aegis, Yuna was waiting for him with a concerned expression. "How did it go, sir?" Daeho looked back at the massive alien station one more time. "Get us out of here, Captain. We need to go home." "What happened in there?" Jin Woo asked, as the ship began to move away from the station. "We just learned that we are not the first species to face this choice," Daeho replied. "But we might be the first to make a different decision." The Aegis jumped into hyperspace, carrying its crew back toward human space. Behind them, the Council. Members were already making plans for the invasion of Earth and all human colonies. They had no idea that humanity was making plans of their own. 3 weeks had passed since Daeho returned from Nexus Prime Station. During those weeks, every human leader on Earth and in the colonies had been meeting in secret. They knew the Council expected an answer soon. President In-Ho Shin sat at the head of a long table in the underground command center beneath Geneva. Around the table were the most important people in human space. Admiral Taiman Seo represented the military. Dr. Sujin Kong spoke for the scientists. Governor Mi-young Kim represented the colonies. "The Council thinks we will surrender," President Shin said. "Every species before us has done exactly that when faced with their ultimatum." "Maybe those species were smart," said Colonial Representative Woojin Che. "The Council controls thousands of star systems. We control 43. "Numbers are not everything," Admiral Seo replied. "We have advantages they do not know about." Dr. Sujin Kang activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked Council territory. Blue dots showed human space. The difference was overwhelming. "But look at this," she said, changing the display. Now it showed technological advancement over time. "Every Council species took thousands of years to develop their current technology. We did it in 2 centuries. "What does that mean?" Governor Kim asked. "It means we think differently than they do. They expect us to act like every other species they have conquered. But we are not like those species." President Shin nodded. "The question is, do we have any chance of winning if we fight?" Admiral Seo smiled grimly. "Mr. President, we have been preparing for this possibility for 20 years. Since the day we first met the Council, our best minds have been studying their technology, their tactics, and their weaknesses. He activated another display. This one showed human military installations that the Council knew about. Then he pressed another button. Suddenly, the display showed dozens more installations that had been built in secret. Every human colony has hidden military facilities, the Admiral explained. Every civilian ship can be converted to military use within hours. Every human citizen has basic military training. More importantly, Dr. Sujin added, we have been studying Council technology every time they visit our worlds. We know how their ships work, how their weapons function, and how their computers think. President Shin was quiet for a long moment. Outside the underground bunker, normal life continued on Earth. People went to work, children went to school, and nobody knew that the future of humanity was being decided in this room. If we fight and lose, they will destroy us completely, the president said finally. If we surrender, they will destroy us slowly, Admiral Seo replied. At least this way, we go down fighting. There is another option, Dr. Sujin said quietly. We might actually win. Meanwhile, Ambassador Dae-ho was preparing to return to Nexus Prime Station. This time, he knew exactly what he was going to say to the Council. The decision had been made by the human government in a secret vote. The SciFi result was unanimous. Captain Jin Woo prepared the Aegis for departure. This time, they were not traveling alone. Hidden in the space around Earth were dozens of human ships, ready to move the moment Dae-ho gave the signal. Are you ready for this? Jin Woo asked his old friend as they approached the alien station. I have been ready for this my whole life, Dae-ho replied. I just did not know it until now. The journey to Nexus Prime took the same 2 days as before. But this time, the crew of the Aegis noticed something different. The alien ships that watched them seemed nervous. They followed at a greater distance and changed positions frequently. They are scared, Yuna observed. They do not know what we are going to do. Good, Dae-ho said. Fear makes people make mistakes. When they arrived at the station, the same 2 tall alien guards escorted Dae-ho to the council chamber. But this time, he was not alone. Nari Choi walked with him, officially as his translator. The aliens did not know she was actually recording everything and transmitting it back to human space. The council chamber looked exactly the same as before. The 12 alien platforms rose around the single human chair in the center. But now, Dae-ho saw it differently. This was not a place of justice. This was a stage designed to intimidate. He walked to the chair and sat down without showing any fear. Above him, the 12 council members stared down with the same cold expressions as before. Veltar spoke first. Human Ambassador, 30 days have passed. What is your government's answer to our generous offer? Dae-ho reached into his jacket and pulled out a small communication device. He placed it on the arm of his chair where everyone could see it. Before I give you our answer, Dae-ho said, I want to make sure everyone can hear it clearly. He activated the device. Immediately, his voice began broadcasting not just to the council chamber, but to every human ship and colony in the galaxy. Unknown to the council, it was also broadcasting to hidden human relay stations throughout council space. Veltar looked confused. What is the meaning of this? Transparency, Dae-ho replied. If we are going to make history, everyone should witness it. The blue alien's 4 arms moved in what humans had learned was a sign of irritation. Give us your answer, human. Dae-ho stood up slowly. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the strange humming sounds from the station's machinery seemed to stop. On behalf of the United Earth government and all human colonies, Dae-ho said, in a clear, strong voice, I formally reject the Council's demands. The silence continued for several seconds. Then, several of the alien council members began making sounds of disbelief. In 3,000 years of council history, no species had ever refused their ultimatum. But Deho was not finished. Furthermore, he continued, based on evidence of coordinated attacks against human civilian populations, acts of war disguised as piracy, and this council's clear intent to commit genocide against humanity, I hereby declare that a state of war exists between the human species and the Galactic Council. The chamber erupted in chaos. Aliens were shouting in their various languages, making sounds of rage and disbelief. The crystalline walls seemed to vibrate with the noise. Veltar rose to his full 15-foot height. His blue skin was now darker. With anger, and all four of his arms were moving rapidly. "You dare threaten the Council?" he roared. "Your primitive species numbers barely 8 billion across 40 worlds. We command trillions across thousands of systems." Deho looked up at the towering alien without flinching. "Then this should be over quickly! You are insane!" screamed the golden-winged insect alien. "We will crush you like insects!" "Guards!" Veltar commanded. "Arrest this human immediately!" As alien security forces began moving toward Deho, his communication device crackled to life. Captain Jin Woo's voice came through clearly for everyone. In the chamber to hear. "Ambassador, package delivery is go." "Repeat, package delivery is go." At that moment, across the galaxy, humanity's desperate plan began to unfold. On Luna Command, Admiral Taemin Seo activated Operation Liberation. Hundreds of human ships that had been hiding in asteroid fields and behind moons suddenly appeared and began attacking Council listening posts and communication relays throughout human space. Colonel Minho Park led simultaneous strikes against Council facilities on 12 different worlds. His soldiers moved with precision and speed that caught the Council forces completely off guard. Commander Eunbi Jong activated sleeper agents that humanity had been placing in Council territory for 20 years. These agents, who had been posing as traders and researchers, suddenly began sabotaging Council infrastructure from within. Lieutenant Hyunwoo Kim began broadcasting humanity's evidence of Council war crimes to every species in the galaxy. The hidden recordings of Council meetings, the proof of their attacks on human colonies, and the documentation of their historical conquests began flooding every communication channel. But the most shocking surprise was yet to come. Dr. Haiwan Lee, working from a secret facility on Mars, activated humanity's ultimate weapon. It was not a bomb or a ship or a gun. It was a computer virus. For 20 years, every time the Council had visited human worlds, human scientists had been studying their technology. They had learned how Council computers worked, how their networks communicated, and most importantly, how to break them. The virus spread through Council systems faster than their technicians could stop it. In the Council chamber, the lights began to flicker. The holographic displays started showing error messages. Even the life support systems began making warning sounds. Veltar looked around in confusion as his perfect chamber began to malfunction. "What is happening?" Deho smiled the same calm smile he had shown 3 weeks earlier. "You wanted to know what makes humans different from all the other species you have conquered. Now you are finding out." The alien guards were still moving toward him, but their weapons were not working properly. Their communication devices were showing static. Even their armor's power systems were beginning to fail. "This is impossible," Veltar said. "Our technology is thousands of years more advanced than yours." "Your technology is thousands of years old," Deho corrected. "Ours is 20 years old and designed specifically to beat yours." Throughout the galaxy, the Council's overwhelming technological advantage was crumbling as their own systems turned against them. Ships lost power, communication networks went dark, automated defenses shut down. The war began in earnest within hours of Deho's declaration. Across the galaxy, humanity's true strength revealed itself like a flower blooming in fast motion. Fleet Admiral Ji-hoon's song stood on the bridge of the battleship Defiant as it emerged from behind Europa's ice fields. Around him, dozens of ships that the Council had never known existed powered up their engines and weapons, all ships, "This is Admiral Song," he broadcast to the fleet. "Today we show the galaxy that humanity bows to no one. Operation Thunder begins now." The human fleet jumped into hyperspace, heading for the Kepler system where a large Council fleet was gathering to attack Earth. The Council commanders there expected to face a few dozen primitive human ships. Instead, they found themselves fighting against 300 vessels equipped with weapons they had never seen before. Captain So Young-on commanded the destroyer Indomitable as it raced through the asteroid belt surrounding Kepler-7. Her ship was smaller than the massive Council dreadnoughts, but it was faster and much smarter. "Weapons officer, activate the mining charges," she ordered. Her crew had spent weeks placing modified asteroid mining explosives throughout the belt. When the Council ships tried to follow the humans through the asteroids, they found themselves flying into a carefully planned trap. The explosions lit up space like fireworks. Massive Council ships that had never been damaged in battle suddenly found themselves crippled by simple mining equipment turned into weapons. "Council ships are breaking formation," reported Lieutenant Young-Soo Bae from the sensor station. "They're trying to retreat." "Let them run," Captain On replied. "They need to tell their friends what happened here." Meanwhile, on Nexus Prime Station, General Dong-hyun Lim was leading the assault on the Council's most important facility. His soldiers wore powered armor that looked primitive compared to Council technology, but appearances were deceiving. The armor had been reverse-engineered from Council designs and improved with human innovation. It was lighter, faster, and more flexible than anything the Council forces had. Sergeant Young-Soo Bae led his squad through the station's corridors, moving like ghosts through the alien architecture. The Council guards were trained to fight enemies, who attacked in large groups using traditional tactics. They did not know how to fight humans who appeared from nowhere, struck hard, and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. "Target the power relays," Bae ordered his squad. "Take out their lights and their gravity." The humans moved through the station in complete darkness, using night vision equipment while the aliens stumbled around blind. Within 6 hours, they had captured 3 entire sections of the massive station. But the real war was not being fought, with guns and explosions. The most important battle was happening inside the Council's computer networks. Dr. Hai-Wan Lee worked from her hidden laboratory on Mars, watching as her virus spread through Council systems like wildfire. Every Council ship, station, and planet was connected to the same network. This had been their strength for thousands of years, allowing instant communication across the galaxy. Now it was their weakness. "The virus has reached the Andorian sector," she reported to Admiral Seo. "Their defense grid is shutting down." "What about their fleet coordination systems?" the Admiral asked. "Gone. Council ships can no longer talk to each other automatically. They have to use primitive radio like we did centuries ago." Cyber warfare specialist Ja Yun-ko was working alongside Dr. Lee, making sure the virus carried its special payload to every corner of Council space. This payload was more dangerous to the Council than any weapon. It was the truth. Every piece of evidence about the Council's crimes was flooding their own communication networks. Council citizens who had been told for thousands of years that their government was peaceful and benevolent suddenly learned that their leaders were conquerors and murderers. On the Council world of Thessia, blue-skinned aliens like Veltar watched, in shock as their information network showed them recordings of their leaders planning genocide against humans. They saw proof that every species in the Council had been conquered by force, not invited to join peacefully. "The Thessian population is rioting," reported Intelligence Chief Woo Jin Chai from Earth. "Their government buildings are under siege by their own people." Similar reports came in from across Council space. The Vaxani were rebelling against their Council-appointed governors. The Korthax were sabotaging Council military facilities. The Melody were refusing to build ships for the Council fleet. Back on Nexus Prime Station, General Lim's forces had reached the Council chamber where Daeho was still facing the 12 alien leaders. The ambassador was no longer alone in his small chair. Human soldiers in powered armor surrounded the alien platforms. "Veltar," Deho called up to the blue alien. "I think we need to discuss new terms." The Thessian leader looked around at his fellow council members. Several of them were trying to contact their home worlds, but their communication devices were not working properly. Others were staring at displays showing the destruction of their fleets. "This is impossible," Veltar said weakly. "You are primitives. You have only been in space for 2 centuries. "That is exactly why we are winning," Deho explained. "You have been using the same tactics and technology for thousands of years. We have been studying you for 20 years and preparing to fight you." Engineer Bo-Ra Jung was working her way through the station's technical sections, systematically disabling the primary weapons array. She moved through maintenance tunnels that were too small for most alien species, using humanity's smaller size as an advantage. "Primary weapons are offline," she reported to General Lim. "Station defense grid is down." Outside the station, Admiral Song's fleet had arrived to provide support, but they found that the station's mighty weapons, which could have destroyed an entire fleet, were already silent. Throughout the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out on hundreds of worlds. Council forces that had seemed overwhelmingly powerful were collapsing as their technology failed and their subject populations rebelled. Admiral Taemin Seo received reports from every sector of human space and beyond. The news was almost too good to believe. "The Council fleet at Rigel has surrendered," reported Captain Hyunwoo Kim. "They lost power to their life support systems and had no choice. The automated defenses around the Council world of Kortha have shut down," added Commander Mi Young Park. "Local rebels have taken control of the planetary government. Council forces are retreating from the Centauri sector," said Colonel Jin Soo Lee. "Our hidden ships there are pursuing them." But Admiral Seo knew the war was not over yet. The Council still had thousands of ships and billions of soldiers. If they could adapt to humanity's tactics and develop countermeasures to the virus, they might still win. "Send a message to all human forces," he ordered. "Phase 2 begins now." Phase 2 was humanity's most ambitious plan. While the Council was struggling with their failing technology and rebellious populations, human forces would strike at the heart of their empire. Captain Haewon Song led a task force of fast ships toward the Council's main fleet base at Zentari Prime. This was where the Council kept their most powerful ships and trained their best officers. "Remember," she told her captains, "we are not just fighting to win this battle. We are fighting to end this war. If we can capture or destroy their main fleet, the Council will have no choice but to surrender." The human ships moved through space, like hunters stalking prey. They used asteroid fields and nebulae for cover, approaching the heavily defended system from directions the Council would never expect. Meanwhile, Dr. Sujin Kang was working with teams of scientists to create new versions of the virus that could overcome any defenses the Council might develop. She had studied alien biology for years and understood how their minds worked. "They think in patterns that are thousands of years old," she explained to her team. "They will try to solve this problem the same way they have solved every problem, for millennia. We need to be ready for that." As the war entered its second week, it became clear that something unprecedented was happening. For the first time in galactic history, the Galactic Council was losing a war. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were declaring independence. Council fleets were surrendering or being destroyed. The mighty empire that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years was crumbling. On Earth, President In-Ho Shin watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Humanity had gambled everything on this moment, and so far they were winning. But he knew the most dangerous part was still ahead. A wounded empire was still dangerous, and the Council leaders would not give up without one final, desperate attempt to maintain their power. "Prepare for their counterattack," he ordered his advisors. "They will try something we do not expect. We need to be ready for anything." In the Council chamber on Nexus Prime, Veltar looked down at Day-Ho with hatred in his eyes. Around him, his fellow council members were arguing among themselves in various alien languages. "You have destroyed 3,000 years of galactic peace," the blue alien said. "No," Day-Ho replied calmly. "We have ended 3,000 years of galactic slavery. There is a difference." The ambassador activated his communication device one more time. His next words would be broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. 6 months after Day-Ho's declaration of war, the final battle was about to begin. The Galactic Council had retreated to their last stronghold at Zentari Prime, the ancient homeworld of the Thessian race where the Council was first formed 3,000 years ago. Admiral Sun Mi-Yun stood on the bridge of the flagship Liberation as the combined human and rebel fleet approached the heavily defended system. Around her ship flew vessels from dozens of species that had broken free from Council rule. "All ships, this is Admiral Yun," she broadcast to the massive fleet. "Today we end 3 millennia of tyranny. Today we give freedom back to the galaxy." The battle for Zentari Prime was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Council forces fought with the desperation of cornered animals, while the Rebel Alliance fought with the hope of people who could see freedom within their grasp. Captain Dong-Wu. Kim commanded a squadron of Vaxani fighters that had joined the human fleet. These pilots had been slaves for 50 years, forced to fight for the Council that had conquered their homeworld. Now they flew alongside their former enemies against their former masters. "Remember," Captain Kim told his mixed squadron of human and alien pilots, "we are not here for revenge. We are here for justice." The space battle raged for 3 days. Council ships that had once seemed invincible fell one by one to the combined tactics of humanity and their new allies. The rebels had learned to fight like humans, using speed and cunning instead of brute force. But the real victory was happening on the planet's surface. General Tae-Hyun Song led a ground assault on the Council's capital city, where the last Council leaders had barricaded themselves in their ancient towers. The city had never been attacked in its 3,000-year history. Its defenses were designed to repel armies using traditional tactics. They were not prepared for human ingenuity. Lieutenant Bo Kyung-lee and her engineering team had studied the city's architecture for months, using intelligence gathered by rebel spies. They knew every weakness in the ancient walls and towers. "The power grid runs through the old aqueduct system," she explained to her assault team. "If we can get inside the tunnels, we can shut down their shields and weapons." The human soldiers moved through the underground passages like water flowing through pipes. The Council guards above never knew they were there until the lights went out and the defensive systems failed. Within hours, the supposedly impregnable capital had fallen. The highest tower of the city, Veltar, and the remaining Council leaders made their last stand. The blue alien looked out at his burning city and realized that his empire was truly finished. "How did it come to this?" asked Mordak, the insect-like council member whose wings were now torn and broken. "We underestimated them," Veltar replied, bitterly. "We thought they were like all the others. We were wrong." The tower's door exploded inward as human soldiers entered. Leading them was General Song, his armor scarred from battle but his eyes determined. "Veltar," the general said calmly, "in the name of the Free Galactic Alliance, I place you under arrest for crimes against sentient life." The former Prime Speaker of the Council looked at the human general with something that might have been respect. "You have won, human. But what will you do with your victory? Will you rule the galaxy as we did?" "No," General Song replied. "We will give it back to the people who live in it." The formal surrender ceremony took place 1 week later, on Nexus Prime Station, which had been renamed Freedom Station. Representatives from every liberated species gathered in the Great Chamber that had once been used to intimidate and threaten. Ambassador Day-Ho stood where he had once sat in a single small chair, but now the chamber was arranged very differently. Instead of high platforms looking down at a lone figure, there were circular seating arrangements where all species could meet as equals. President In-ho Shin had traveled from Earth to witness this historic moment. As he looked around the chamber filled with dozens of different alien species, he felt the weight of what humanity had accomplished. Today, President Shin announced to the gathering, "We do not celebrate conquest. We celebrate liberation. We do not claim the right to rule. We claim the right to be free." The new government they created was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of a council of conquerors, they formed an assembly of free worlds where every species had an equal voice. But the transition was not easy. Dr. Mi-jung Park, who had been appointed as the first director of Galactic Reconstruction, faced enormous challenges. 3,000 years of oppression cannot be undone overnight, she explained to the human leadership. Many species do not know how to govern themselves. They have been slaves for so long that they have forgotten what freedom means. Some worlds fell into chaos when council rule ended. Pirates and warlords tried to fill the power vacuum. Trade routes collapsed without central coordination. Entire sectors experienced economic collapse. Captain Kyung-ho Lee, who commanded the peacekeeping forces, argued for a stronger human role in maintaining order. "We have the strongest military," he said during a heated debate. "We should use it to impose stability." But Councillor Mi-young Kim disagreed strongly. "If we impose our will on others, even with good intentions, we become no better than the council we just defeated." The debate was settled when the liberated species themselves made their choice. Zarek, a former council slave who had become a leader among the Korthak people, spoke for many when he addressed the assembly. "Humans," he said, "you gave us something more valuable than protection. You gave us hope. Do not take that away by trying to protect us from our own mistakes." The solution they found was revolutionary. Instead of one species ruling over others, they created a true cooperative government. Humans provided military protection and technological assistance, but only when asked. Other species contributed their own strengths. The Vaxani were excellent traders, the Melody were gifted engineers, the Korthaks were natural explorers. Admiral Taemin Seo, now retired from active military duty, became the first human ambassador to the Free Assembly. His job was not to give orders, but to coordinate and cooperate. "This is harder than war," he admitted to his old friend Captain Jin Woo. "In war, you know who your enemies are. In peace, everyone is supposed to be your friend, but they all want different things." 5 years after the war ended, Captain Hae-won Song commanded the first mixed-species exploration vessel to venture beyond the galaxy's rim. Her crew included humans, Vaxani, Melody, and former council species working together. "This is what we fought for," she told her diverse crew as they prepared to jump into the unknown, not to rule the galaxy, but to explore it together. The ship Unity disappeared into the darkness between galaxies, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of 1 trillion free beings. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Yonseo Choi was writing the official history of the war. She had interviewed hundreds of participants from every species involved. "The day humanity declared war on the Galactic Council," she wrote, "became known throughout the galaxy as Liberation Day. But it was not the day humanity conquered the galaxy. It was the day the galaxy learned to be free." In the former council chamber on Freedom Station, a simple plaque now marked the spot where Dae-ho had made his historic declaration. The inscription was written in every language spoken by free species. Here ended the age of fear. Here began the age of hope. Veltar, now serving his sentence in a rehabilitation facility on a neutral world, sometimes read reports about the new galactic government. Despite everything, he had to admit that the humans had kept their word. They had not become new conquerors. They had become liberators. The galaxy was messier now than it had been under council rule. There were more conflicts, more disagreements, more chaos. But there was also more creativity, more innovation, more life. And for the first time in 3,000 years, when children of any species looked up at the stars, They saw not symbols of oppression, but beacons of possibility. The war was over. The peace had begun, and humanity had given the galaxy the greatest gift possible, the chance to determine its own destiny. In the end, that was what made humans truly different from every other species the Council had encountered. They did not seek to rule others. They sought to free them, and in freeing others, they had freed themselves to become something greater than conquerors. They had become the guardians of hope in a galaxy that had almost forgotten what freedom meant. The age of the Galactic Council was over. The age of the free galaxy had begun.